The Pilsner Urquell website talks about drinking it with foam because the foam holds in the aroma and flavor. We'll see. I'm going to do a side by side here with foam versus no foam. So first of all, let's pour one nice and gently so that we don't get any foam. Because generally, I don't like having a lot of foam in there. And the reason is, it seems to me that foam makes it go flat faster. Foam versus no foam. We're going to find out. At least I'm going to find out. Because this is subjective. It's just a matter of taste. Okay, so you're at the bar. The bartender has just poured you a beer, and he just poured it with a lot of foam in there, and he brought it to you. And the beers I'm using are Pilsner Urquell from Czechia. Let's try it with foam. Good. Smooth, drinkable. It's a good beer. Yeah, there's a difference. And the difference is what I anticipated it would be. This one is a little bit flatter, just a little. This one has more bite to it. Crisp. It's got a hit to it. Where this one has some of that edge taken off. Personally, I prefer this one. Because after a while, after a certain amount of time, unless you drink these fairly quickly, it's going to get even more flat and more watery than what it is now. But it's good. It's good. But by the time it gets down to here, if I was just drinking slowly and normally at a bar or something like that, or with dinner, it's going to be fairly flat and watery like most beers are after a certain period of time. Whereas this one, it's going to last longer. The taste and everything about it is going to last longer. There is a difference. There is a difference that you can both taste and feel. And I like both the taste and the feeling of this one better. So whenever I pour a beer, I'm going to pour it in such a way to avoid stirring up the foam, if I can. Well, there you go. Foam versus no foam. For me, no foam. No foam wins. At least with this beer. Maybe other beers are different. Maybe you get a nice, strong, really carbonated beer and you need to take some of that bite, some of that carbonation out, so you pour it with foam. Of course, some beers, you open them up and they have so much foam in them. You try to pour it slowly and it still produces a lot of foam. I've had beers like that. Open up the can, and as soon as you open up the can, even though it's been sitting for a while and settled, the foam starts coming out. At the moment you open it and you try pouring it in there, you try not getting any foam, but it produces foam anyway. So maybe in a beer like that, You just go for the foam. But if you have a choice, as for me, I'm going to choose no foam. All right, this is one of those beers that foams up really easily. The Fish Camp Pils from a veterans group brewing company out of Jacksonville, Florida. I've poured a couple of beers here. And it was hard to get this one to pour without any foam at all. This one I pretty much dumped in. But we're going to see here is if foam makes a difference. Now, I already did this with Pilsner Urquell, and I like it without foam better than with. Because foam reduces the carbonation and makes it more watery or smoother. So, we're going to try it with this beer because this beer is sharper in flavor than Pilsner Urquell. So we'll see if this foam benefits the sharpness, reduces it to a point where it's smoother. Now here is the beer that I tried to pour as gently as possible, but we still have some foam here. But it shouldn't be as bad as this one, or as much foam or as carbonated as this one. It's a good beer. It's hoppy. It's got a sharp hoppiness to it and a nice maltiness. Now this one, we dumped it in there, so it should be a little bit smoother, a little bit less carbonated, a little bit less bite. We'll see. And if there is a difference, which is very difficult to tell, this one might be a little bit smoother. Yeah, definitely sharper, more bite to it, which I don't mind. But for a beer that is a sharp and has bite to it, then perhaps pouring it with foam is the way to go. I think I like the foamy version better. So here's the beer. It's Fish Camp Pils. It's out of Jacksonville, Florida. You see, I live in Florida, so a lot of the beers that I try are based in Florida. When I go to a liquor store or Total Wine or whatever and look at the beers, I see a lot of local beers or Florida beers to choose from. And, I've been going there for years. And this is the first time I saw this one, so I bought it. So it must be fairly new. I have no idea. That's the thing in the craft brew scene. It seems that new breweries might be popping up all the time. I don't know. But I can go there and every few months and pick out a Florida beer that I haven't had before. And IPAs are still a big thing. But I prefer Pilsners and lagers. I used to be in IPAs, but I just got tired of them. I kind of got burnt out on them. Because some IPAs are really citrusy, and although I used to like them, I just got kind of burnt out on that real citrusiness that some IPAs have. And there are other IPAs that are good and hoppy, but not citrusy hoppy. And I just went back to Pilsners. And see, the lager and the Pilsner, where the lager is the most popular beer style in the world, and there's probably a reason for that. It could be because most people prefer it But it also could be is because maybe it's easier to produce than other styles, and that's just what most breweries make because it's easier. I guess. I don't know. I don't brew beer, so I really don't know. I don't have any idea of how easy any type of beer is to produce. But when in the 1800s, when Germans came here and they started brewing their own beer, I think they brewed lagers based on what was popular or big in Germany. But they didn't have the ingredients. They didn't have the malted barley that they had in Germany, so they used substitutes, which we now call adjuncts, and that's where the term American adjunct lager came from. Budweiser, Miller, Coors, Pabst Blue Ribbon, Schlitz, Old Milwaukee are all adjunct lagers. So instead of using the traditional beer ingredients, they use substitutes. In the case of Budweiser, the substitute is rice. In the case of some of these other beers, Miller, High Life, Coors, and so forth, the substitute is corn. And they were able to duplicate or get close to the taste that they are familiar with in Germany. But you can tell when you do this side by side with an adjunct lager and a regular lager, you can taste the difference. And generally, I've found that a lot of adjunct lagers have a bad aftertaste, a sawdusty aftertaste in many cases. You could put these adjunct lagers up against a European lager that is not an adjunct but made with the traditional ingredients, and you'll definitely tell the difference. But anyway, in this case, I think the foam is better. But I don't know, yeah, this is definitely has that sharpness to it. And maybe in 10, 15, 20 minutes before I finish these beers, by that time, that sharpness might be beneficial because it's still going to have some flavor to it. Whereas less sharpness is going to be more watery and less flavorful. Because after time, the carbonation goes away, beer becomes flat, it becomes watery, and it just isn't as good as when you first pour it, in my experience, in my opinion. But that's it. So I'm glad you watched